I think Elon Musk is taking too many drugs. And that's not just because you'd have to be high to make any of the ridiculous and dangerous and downright dumb moves he has at Doge, but because at CPAC today, when he sat down for quite a long interview, it was incredibly clear that not only was he just out of it and acting stranger than usual, and to have to identify Elon's strangeness as worse than usual, you have to be doing some pretty weird stuff, but he just lost his ability to speak. And you will see how absurd and pretty upsetting it all was. But before we get into it, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into the full interview, when Elon Musk came out, he was, well, actually, you'll just have to see.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
So the chainsaw bit is something that he took from Milei, who is the president of Argentina, who walked out with Elon. But he's just so unfunny and uncool that you hear him just yelling repeatedly, chainsaw, like he's describing the action that he's taking. You know how people say, like, if you ever have to explain a joke, the joke is not funny. When you have to explain that you have a chainsaw, you're like, the bit is clearly not landing. He just looks stupid, and that stupidity continued, as we can see when the interview began right here.
Paint us a picture of inside of the mind of a genius. Like, how do you do all this? Can you answer that question? It's not an easy question. Yeah.
I mean, my mind is a storm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a storm. But
So obviously Elon is as weird and twitchy and kind of out of it as he always is. And you can see he's got the sunglasses on and the stupid chain kind of bouncing around. And that'll be important in just a little bit, so stick around for that. But it only gets worse from here, not just in what Elon says, but how he says it. And if you really want to talk about what he's saying, take a listen to this right here.
you know, just so you can see it. You know.
What do you? I mean,
and like it's like, isn't it like it's totally wild? Like we just did like a check the database on Social Security. Like it says how many alive Americans eligible for Social Security are there? And according to the database, it's over 400 million. And we're like, wait a second.
and how many are getting?
How old are they again?
Yeah.
And then like we found like one person in there is like 360 years old. I'm like, what, they know Ben Franklin or something? I mean,
yeah.
You know, America didn't exist before at that time. Like, so
yeah, we were colonies.
You know, maybe it's just me, but I think it's a red flag. I don't know.
But are there indications that that there were checks going to those people or any of those people?
Well, yeah.
That's, I guess, the question, right? I mean, I get the Social Security Administration is done.
Oh, great. Coming after Social Security. That's what we expected. And it's unfortunate we're hearing it already. But Elon clearly doesn't understand what he's talking about with those numbers. What a shock. Elon Musk is stupid and is misconceiving something. That's not new. But what is new is the apparent plan he has, which is to get rid of it all, I guess, is what this is coming down to. They're just so out of touch, and really it just gets hypocritical too. Anything that they, it's hard with Elon. He just sounds so stupid. I'm really just like, this interview got me, just annoyed the hell out of me. Just take a listen to what he had to say right here.
You know, and have like a sense of humor, you know? So, I mean, the sort of the left wanted to make comedy illegal, you know? Yeah. Like, you can't make fun of anything. So there's like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Yeah. Legalize comedy.
And we've shifted the entire culture. And just
legalize comedy from the guy who's now saying that journalists need to be thrown in jail. From the White House that is banning the AP, you're the ones who are really standing up for free speech. It's ridiculous. And speaking of speech, like we said at the beginning of this video, it's something Elon struggled with throughout the entirety of the interview, but never did it get worse than this moment right here. And check out the host panicking and trying to laugh and trying to guide Elon. He just can't speak.
If you got to protect the First Amendment, it's not much more important than that.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of criticism, and people said, well, that proves he's a huge idiot from a, like, look, he voted for whatever, $44 billion, and now it's worth like 8 cents. And
It's not worth 8 cents.
but there's that, but the, yeah, it was essentially to buy freedom of expression.
So there's clearly a reason that Elon is wearing those sunglasses, and it's not, maybe it is because he thinks he looks cool. He does not, by the way. Elon, if you're watching, you do not look cool. Anything you do, what would be really cool is if you'd F off and just leave, please. But I think it's just to cover up, like, he's high. And it sounds like it, because he just mumbled through most of the interview, but all of those sentences, if we can even call them that, it was strange, it got weird. I couldn't understand him, neither could the host. He was trying to, like, save him, clearly panicked at the end there, but he just couldn't put his words together. This is the guy that we have essentially running our government. This is the president. Donald Trump is negotiating with Putin. He can barely put a sentence together. Elon Musk is in charge of your Social Security. He can barely put a sentence together. If Joe Biden had done something like that, it would have been wall-to-wall coverage for a week. Kamala Harris, wall-to-wall coverage. But we're just going to move past it? That the guy is clear, like the guy who openly talks about ketamine is clearly on drugs all the time? It's insane. And somehow his inability to speak was only the only insane thing. Now it's coming to me. Take a listen to Steve Bannon right here.
The future of MAGA is Donald J. Trump. We want Trump in 28. That's what they can't stand. A man like Trump comes along only once or twice in a country's history, right? We want Trump. We want Trump. We want Trump. We want Trump. We want Trump.
Now, Bannon has been pretty open with him talking about Trump 2028 as a distraction and as a way to keep his power so he doesn't seem like the lame duck that he is. But I don't know. It seems like they're taking it more and more seriously every single day. And if we're going to talk about it, I think we should be talking about it as a distraction from their failures. They're more focused on creating a narrative around Donald Trump potentially running for another term or actually doing it than helping you with anything. It is insane. And again, these guys can't speak clearly about anything that makes sense. The only person who actually can, someone who we love on this show, that's Jasmine Crockett right here.
There because we've had a number of these hearings. So I do want to be clear, before the Trump administration came in, this committee did exist in the form of the Oversight Committee, and our task is to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. In that vein, we had a number of hearings, at least last term. I can't speak for any other term as I'm only in my sophomore term. And we dealt with improper payments. And interestingly enough, our chairwoman, who is so passionate about this today, she missed every single one of those improper payment hearings. But just to be clear, I was there, so I don't want anyone to believe that Democrats just come to work and don't plan to do work. In fact, I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that the Republicans believe our job is, because right now they have relinquished their constitutional duties over to an unelected bureaucrat, someone who no one went out to vote for. And absolutely, he is occupying the Oval Office, as we saw yesterday. And that is a first for me, to see someone occupying the Oval Office who's never actually been elected to the Oval Office and actually answering more questions than the person that allegedly got elected. But for whatever reason, this is the first time we're having a DOJ subcommittee hearing, and that guy's not here. Instead, we have y'all. So I do want to thank you for coming. But I will say this. It's also interesting to me that in the first few days of DOJ existing, we know that they are trying to get rid of the Department of Education, USAID, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're laying off FAA workers. They are going after the FDA, the CDC, the HHS, the FBI agents, and they're talking about getting rid of FEMA. And they brought y'all in. And I am going to say that I actually was shocked that there was only one person that seemed like he was an overt Trumper as you laid out your opening remarks, because I anticipated that at least one of y'all would say, yes, what Elon is doing is exactly what we would prescribe. But instead, I will applaud you because you actually were focused. You talked about what the American people are looking for us to do. We've actually consistently on this side of the aisle promoted this idea of making investments into technology so that we can do things such as, say, look at the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense that takes up approximately, 50% of our discretionary income. Or our discretionary spending, approximately 50% goes to Department of Defense. Department of Defense has not been able to pass an audit in the last 6 audits, and we're not talking about pennies. I understand that we want everything to be perfect, and if we could get all waste, fraud, and abuse out, that would be fantastic, but let me talk about the big numbers. The big numbers are on that side. When we look at, say, our entire workforce, our federal workforce, as we're trying to somehow fire all of them, they don't even make up a total of 5%. It's even less than that when we look at our budget. But let's talk about defense. That just happens to be the same side of the ledger that Mr. Musk gets the vast majority of his money from. In fact, at the same time that they were unlawfully, and we will stay in court, because on this side, we believe in law and order. We believe in, a number of us are actually lawyers, but nevertheless, we understand the Constitution. We believe in that as well. And so there's things such as, impoundment, right? Because as Mr. Whitson said, he said, we need to return the power of the purse to Congress. It never left. According to the Constitution, that's where it's at. Now, I know that people are confused right now because for whatever reason, we had a guy that went in, and you talk about people invading our data. Listen, people said that they were upset about TikTok, but I'm upset about the guy that runs Twitter, who for sure is doing nefarious things, because I don't understand, if you are trying to conduct audits and figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there at inauguration. We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday and he admitted that he was lying, and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie. So let me tell you something.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
It's time for
the
us
gentlelady's
to do our
time has
job
expired.
and rein in this rogue actor known
The gentlelady's
as
time has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Burleson.
Yeah, that's someone who I'd much rather have in charge of Social Security, much rather have in charge of the entire government. Someone who actually understands how it works. Crazy concept that is. Gosh, these people are awful. And we're going to call them out every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.